Good evening. This is Flash News straight from heart of Poland, Warsaw. We start with the newest events from Polish perspective. We kick off right now with 3 hours long dispute on the future of the ruling coalition. Kaczyński's Law and Justice in the party talk about the future of the so-called United Right and the cooperation with parties agreement in United Poland.
The most important politicians of Law and Justice have concluded the meeting. The party's leadership meeting is over. Decisions have been made about the decisive moves. We will inform you about the details in due time. The talks were a consequence of discrepancies in the United Right regarding voting on the amendment to the Animal Protection Act. Law and Justice politicians do not exclude an agreement but expect loyalty. Small little parties which are part of the United Coalition have to tame their appetites, and if they do that, if they understand the matter of their situation, then we will try to come to terms. And the publicists, referring to the current situation, recall the example of the Solidarity Electoral Action, a political project which was destroyed due to quarrels and internal divisions. The United Right cannot go the way of Solidarity Electoral Action. Perhaps these talks will make all right-wing leaders realize that unity is the foundation, and the foundation is Jarosław Kaczyński. After the Sejm has passed the Animal Protection Act, which has divided the coalition members, the senators will now deal with it.
In the Flash News, we stay with the issues of Poland. This might be one of the biggest financial affairs in the whole history of Poland. The Public Prosecutor Office in Warsaw has applied to the court for the arrest of billionaire Leszek C. The investigators want to charge the banker of committing fraud. The core of the case is an extortion worth $34 million from the shareholders of Get Back company.
For years he was one of the richest Poles, and now there might be an arrest warrant issued against him. This will happen if the court accepts the motion of the prosecutor's office for the temporary arrest of Leszek Czarnecki. Leszek Ch is probably aware of what he has done, hence he escaped from Poland months ago. Unfortunately, to get him back to Poland will not be an easy thing, because Monaco, where he currently has his tax residence, is not a party of the Convention on the European Arrest Warrant. There are several thousand victims in the affair. Clients of Czarnecki's bank were urged to buy bonds of Get Back company. After a while, it turned out that the company is not able to return the invested money to the clients. This investigation is developing. More and more people are being taken into account by the prosecutor's office, and of course, in our opinion, there are still many people who could be responsible for this affair in one way or the other. According to the prosecutor's office, Czarnecki knew that the clients were misled about the profit and investment security. Investigators accuse him of unfavorable disposal of clients' property for the sum of 130 million zlotys.
Now we cover international issues. Still no common approach from the EU leaders on the sanction against the Lukashenko regime. Meantime, as part of her European efforts, Svetlana Tikhanovskaya joined the meeting to show pictures of the tortured and beaten Belarusians. Meanwhile, the protests in Belarus are still ongoing.
100,000 protesters in the streets of Belarusian cities and almost half a thousand in police arrests. These are the results of the recent demonstrations against President Lukashenko's regime, demonstrations which are brutally suppressed by Oman officers. The Belarusian Alman has started to be very well paid. Their earnings have increased up to 6 times. Lukashenko is not the president of the Belarusian nation, but of the Belarusian Alman. The opposition leader Svetlana Tikhanovskaya talked to the heads of EU diplomacy in Brussels about the situation in Belarus. Of course, I asked for help from these countries because we Belarusians are doing everything we can, but we understand that we need help from the outside. Such a help will be primarily, for example, sanctions. Several hundred Belarusians living in Brussels were waiting for Tikhanovskaya before the European Parliament. In the European Parliament, the leader of the opposition spoke about the tortures of the arrested. She argued that only pressure can force the Lukashenko's regime to dialogue with its own people. It is unofficially known that the list of sanctions has already been prepared with 40 names, and President Alexander Lukashenko is not on it. Unfortunately, during today's meeting in Brussels, the heads of diplomacy did not come to an agreement. Cyprus is blocking the implementation of the restrictions. It is actually a matter of decency at the moment for the European Union to take a stand very quickly. Last week, the European Parliament adopted a resolution calling, amongst others, for the freezing of EU funds for the Belarusian authorities.
Now on Flash News, it's time for the coronavirus update on secure future of the European countries as the COVID-19 keeps on striking. France, Spain, UK and Czech Republic are the hotspots of second wave of the virus. According to the scientists from the American Johns Hopkins University, 959,000 people have died so far, and the total number of infections is 31 million.
In many European countries, the number of new infections is rapidly increasing. During the last 24 hours, 10,500 new cases of coronavirus were detected in France, and on Friday and Saturday, over 13,000. Due to the pandemic, more than 500 schools were closed. However, it was discovered that the spread of the coronavirus in schools is limited. Therefore, from tomorrow on, there will be no immediate closure of classes. Other countries, including Spain, are tightening their restrictions. A lockdown is being imposed in some districts of Madrid, which will affect nearly 1 million people. Disturbing information is also coming from the UK. According to the government's chief scientific advisor, Patrick Vallance, it is estimated that there are currently around 70,000 ill people across the country, and this number is increasing by around 4,000 confirmed new cases every day. The British authorities warn that if this trend continues, there could be up to 50,000 new cases per day in 3 weeks. In the Czech Republic, the Minister of Health resigned. He was criticized for his strategy of managing the pandemic so far, and especially for the fact that he could not stop the growth of the infections. On the 17th of September, the number of new coronavirus cases exceeded 3,000 for the first time in the Czech Republic. I presented my resignation to the Prime Minister. I want to create space for solving the problem of the coronavirus infections. A gathering ban of more than 10 people in closed rooms has been introduced in Austria. An increase of new infections of COVID-19 is reported also in the UK, the Netherlands, Belgium and Germany. A second lockdown was introduced on Monday in Israel. It will last 3 weeks. Still, most new infections are recorded in the United States, India and Brazil. The number of COVID-19 victims in the United States of America is record-breaking. It has exceeded 200,000.
Now, the breakthrough on the future of the Nord Stream 2 on the pages of Polish newspaper. Ursula von der Leyen, the president of European Commission, openly named the Northern Pipeline as political project. As construction is still on hold, Poland does its best to convince European partners of its dangers and drawbacks.
150 kilometers of gas pipeline is missing until the completion of Nord Stream 2. Poland protested against this construction from the very beginning because this is Europe's dependence on Russian gas. German Chancellor Angela Merkel repeated that Nord Stream 2 is a business project. Now a different German politician, the president of the European Commission, admitted that it is completely different. Russia's pattern of conduct did not change for the better during the construction of this pipeline, rather for the worse. The hope that the gas trade and business will improve relations with Russia is fading. This is why I think we have to be clear about this. Yes, this is a political project. Europe's position on the gas pipeline became more acute after the poisoning attempt of Alexei Navalny. The Russian oppositionists miraculously survived. As part of the sanctions, the European Parliament called for a halt of the construction of Nord Stream 2. The Americans have already imposed sanctions on companies building the gas pipeline. A Swiss company laying pipes on the seabed withdrew from the cooperation.
Why is Germany making a deal to give billions of dollars to Russia, and then we're protecting Germany from Russia? How does that work?
The sanctions divided the Germans. Some want the construction of Nord Stream 2 to be completed, others want it to be stopped. Former German Chancellor Gerhard Schröder was called upon to resign from his high salary and the position of chairman of Nord Stream 2 board of directors.
This is Flash News, and still more to come. Poverty does not exclude from social life. This is what a couple from India proved and brought to life. A street school for poor children of Delhi's suburbs is a chance they might never receive again.
Veena and Virendra Gupta are wealthy people, but they do not close themselves to the problems of people who are worse off than them. Having learned about the problems of children from poor districts who are deprived of access to education because of the coronavirus, they went to help. The lessons take place on the street. For the time being, there are classes in English, mathematics, physics, natural sciences and sports. The couple would like to expand their education, but they do need support. And they do hope very much that the fate of poor children hungry for knowledge and food will touch upon other wealthy ones. Although it is a postman's job, it requires perseverance, efficiency, dedication and courage. Sergei Kondyakov is walking through forests and swamps to reach the inhabitants of Krasny Yar village in the Yaroslav province in western Russia. He brings not only parcels, letters and pensions. When necessary, he takes medicine and shopping from the nearest town a few dozen kilometers away. The history of fashion in real time. In Launceston, in the north of Tasmania, an exhibition has been prepared to present the lives of the inhabitants of this Australian island during the last 100 years. The story is woven from clothes worn by residents all over the social strata. Therefore, in addition to beautiful dresses, one can also find pants of a convict from the Hobart prison. It is the oldest piece of this exhibition. The Bolivian Saimaris, called squirrel monkeys, are stars of the London Zoo. They will soon appear in a documentary about this facility, which, like many others during the pandemic, is struggling with financial problems. On the last weekend of the summer, the animals were warming up in the sun and the zoo workers were giving them ice lollipops for coolness and fun.
How cute was these monkeys? Thank you very much for joining us. That was Flash News. More information from Poland tomorrow, same time. Stay tuned and have a beautiful night. Goodbye.